Originally, the term narcissism comes from the Greek myth of Narcissus. Narcissus was the son of the river god Sisyphus and the nymph Liriope. Narcissus was a beautiful man that everyone fell in love with, but he seemed to never be able to treat people correctly. He always kind of just pushed them away and was very disrespectful to them. So one day when he was out hunting, there was a nymph with the name Echo who saw him and immediately fell in love with him. Echo started following him around the woods, and eventually Narcissus realized that someone was following him, so he turned and Echo showed herself and tried to give him a hug. Narcissus immediately just pushed her away, and she fell into a deep, deep depression and ran around the woods for the rest of her life, just dwindling and dwindling until there was nothing left of her but an echo. So the goddess of revenge, Nemesis, heard about what happened and said, nah, that's not gonna fly. So she basically cast a spell on Narcissus and brought him to a pool where he saw his own reflection and immediately fell in love with himself. So it took him a little bit to realize that it was just his reflection and not just and not an actual person. So when he finally did realize that it was just him, his own reflection, he became very depressed himself and eventually committed suicide. So now, what is narcissistic personality disorder? People with NPD they have an unrealistic self-image, and they just have a very high level of superiority. They think that they're better than everybody else, or they think that they're the most beautiful thing in the world, just like Narcissus from the story. Key features of NPD include a constant need to be admired or praised, an unrelenting feeling that they're better than everyone else, and a lack of empathy for others. Now, varying research shows that it's not as common as people think. A lot of people think that just because someone's mean to you that they're a narcissist. Now, some people are just conceited assholes. According to varying research studies, it affects about 1 to 15% of people in the United States. So it is still a high percentage of people for such a damaging personality disorder to exist, but it's not nearly as high as everyone thinks that it is. Some of the more common features of NPD include, but are definitely not limited to, craving attention and admiration due to excessive feelings of superiority, as well as the undervaluing of other people's achievements. So basically, they're going to downplay everything that you're doing while making themselves seem like they are the grand poobah. They're very charming, but also very quick to anger or irritate. They talk about themselves a lot, but have very little interest in what you have to say. And they like to over-exaggerate their achievements and their level of status in life. In some but not all cases, this is linked to severe depression and anxiety. It's typically coupled, but that does not mean that because someone is depressed or experiences anxiety that they are a narcissist. It's one can exist without the other. Now, there is such a thing as healthy narcissism. It is good to be proud of your own achievements, as long as you're not making it seem like you're better than anybody else. Jane Austen in the novel Pride and Prejudice is quoted as saying that pride and vanity are two different things, even though they're typically used synonymously. So pride is what you see of yourself, and vanity is what you want the world to see of you. So this is the difference here. The narcissistic personality comes in with vanity, not with pride. It's good to be proud of what you've done. Be proud of what you've done. That's called self-esteem. Now, there are a few different types of narcissists. However, the most common are known as grandiose and covert narcissists. Grandiose narcissists are the ones that are a lot more obvious. They like to brag about stuff that they've done. They tend to believe that that they're the best. They're obsessed with competition, and they like to be the best in the room, either because they crave attention or just because they like seeing others be hurt and confused. There really is no reason behind it other than just the personality disorder. The other one, covert narcissism, these people tend to be more shy and highly defensive in the face of criticism, so they act as though they're the victim all the time. And when you call them out and say, hey, like, maybe let's uplift your spirits, they act as though you're attacking their character directly. One of the best things that you can do to mitigate these behaviors is to set firm boundaries. Now, specifically with a grandiose narcissist, but with all narcissists, they're going to push those boundaries. So you need to be very prepared to reinforce your boundaries, or just even better, walk away. That you really can't get through most of the time to people with this personality disorder. You can try as hard as you can, but you're going to end up going through a vicious wheel of insanity, just trying the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Now, since NPD, narcissistic personality disorder, is a spectrum disorder, There is no standard treatment for it. Some medications can help for people who are suffering with the depression and the anxiety, but the most useful treatment that's been found is to be psychotherapy, specifically cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, as most people know it. This treatment is used to help people with NPD to develop healthier relationships, build their self-esteem, manage emotions, build a more realistic self-image, and take responsibility for their own actions. That's a big thing with narcissists. They don't like to take responsibility for their actions, but I'll get into that a little bit later on. It's impossible to prevent genetic predisposition to NPD outside of just not having children with the narcissist. However, it is possible to prevent certain risk factors from occurring, such as excessive praise or criticism of children. So don't be a participation trophy parent, and also don't be a very cruel parent where nothing they do is right. Don't raise your children as though nothing is wrong. Don't raise them as though nothing is right. Other ways that you can prevent them is just to prevent abuse, trauma, or rejection. Now, you can't stop what the world is going to throw at them, but you can stop what happens in your own home. And those of you out there who have been through abuse or trauma at home, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you have children of your own, you know exactly what needs to be done to make sure that doesn't happen at home. So if we help kids by giving them a healthy, balanced sense of self-esteem, we can reduce the amount of people in the world with NPD, and also help others learn to defend themselves from the types of abuse inflicted on them. Now, there are many ways in which narcissists can abuse their victims. The most common is what's known as gaslighting. As the story of narcissists shows, narcissists have been around forever, but the term gaslighting has not. It stems from the 1938 play and the 1944 film Gaslight, in which a husband manipulates his wife into believing that she has a mental disorder. The definition of gaslighting is to manipulate someone by psychological means into doubting their own sanity or memories. And common examples of how this is done are, one, countering, which is basically questioning memories, saying things like, "Are you sure? You've always had a bad memory. Are you sure you're just not misremembering what happened there?" Number two, withholding, which is pretending to not understand in order to plant seeds of doubt, saying things like, now you're just confusing me. I have absolutely no idea what you're talking about. Three, trivializing, which is belittling or disregarding someone's feelings by accusing them of being too sensitive or overreacting to an actually valid concern, saying things like, "I'm not being mean, I'm just making a joke, you know this, come on now, stop being so sensitive." And in most cases, people are just making a joke, but you know the difference. When it doesn't feel like they're joking and it really feels like they're being mean, that's what's happening, and you need to call them out on it. Number four, denial. Pretending to forget what happened, saying it didn't happen or it was done by somebody else. Often cases, this just happens by being blunt, saying that didn't happen. In other cases, it can happen by saying things like, "Well, we were pretty drunk last night. Are you sure you didn't just fall and hurt yourself?" They're passively denying what happened instead of actively denying what happened, but it's all the same umbrella. It's all denial. The next one is diverting. Diverting is changing focus by questioning your credibility, saying things like, "That's just some nonsense that you read online or heard in a podcast or some guru told you. It's not real. You just saw that in Steve Forchetti's YouTube video. It's real. They know it. They're trying to control you. Knock it off." And finally, stereotyping, the use of gender, race, ethnicity, sexuality, nationality, or age to discredit and intimidate. Now, this is particularly my least favorite one. Some examples would be from what we've seen in the news recently. Amber Heard saying things like, "Nobody will believe that a man was abused by a woman." Obviously, it's possible. The Catholic Church, "I'm an adult, you're a child. No one will take your word over mine." And the inverse of this would be something like Juicy Smollett, but saying that people are just going to try to think that you're playing the race card. Now, I say it's the inverse because in this case, that is what happened. He made it seem as though there was a race crime committed against him when nothing actually happened, and it was proven as such. So there are different forms of gaslighting and the inverse as well. Now, how to defend yourself would be to keep a secret diary with dates and times of what happened. Take pictures, make voice memos. Technology is definitely your friend in this case. Evidence, email the evidence to yourself to like a secret email address in case you're afraid of your phone or tablet being destroyed. Buy a cheap smartphone at Walmart in case you feel like your main phone is going to be monitored, and talk to a friend, family member, or counselor, assuming that you haven't been isolated from the world already by your narcissist. This is just scratching the surface, explaining what narcissism is, what gaslighting is, and how to protect yourself from it by identifying what the means are that cause this. So please, everyone out there, be safe. Make sure you stay in touch with your friends and family if you feel like this is being done for you. And just, the only way to stop this is to show the world and the people with NPD that there's no excuse for this behavior and it will not be tolerated. So again, if you can't reinforce your boundaries, you need to learn to walk away. I hope you're safe. Have a nice day. Namaste. Now, the books for this particular video are Jonathan Livingston Seagull and Zero Fucks Given. Both of these books are about teaching you to tap into your internal power and to have increased self-confidence. Zero Fucks Given, obviously, you understand, is teaching you how to live a life with zero fucks given. Jonathan Livingston Seagull may be perceived as a children's book, but it's actually, it's a story of overcoming the views of others. It's all about a seagull named Jonathan who sees that there's more to life than just going to the beach, eating your food, and then going home. He wants to fly as high and as fast as he possibly can, and all the other seagulls tell him that's ridiculous. Seagulls don't do that. Quit being ridiculous. But he knows, no, you just don't understand. I know I have a higher purpose in life, and it's not doing what you guys are telling me I need to do. So essentially, Jonathan is experiencing this gaslighting from society, the other seagulls, and still choosing to overcome it. Fantastic books. I definitely suggest checking them out. Have a nice day.